Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, staring at the message that had just arrived from Earth. The blue holographic text floated in front of him, but the words felt like a punch to the gut. After reading it 3 times, he still couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Sir?" Chief Engineer Lisa Blake stepped closer, her voice quiet. "What are your orders?" Jake looked around at his crew. These men and women had been with him for 2 years, flying missions to the outer colonies and protecting human trade routes. They trusted him completely. Now he had to tell them they were probably going to die. "Gather everyone in the main briefing room," Jake said. "All senior staff, immediately." 20 minutes later, the ship's key officers sat around the metal table in the briefing room. The walls were plain gray steel, and the lights cast harsh shadows on their faces. Jake could see the worry in their eyes. They all knew something big was happening. "We've received new orders from Earth Command," Jake began. He activated the holographic display in the center of the table. The message appeared, and he read it aloud. "The Galactic Confederation has issued an ultimatum to humanity. We have 72 hours to surrender all rights to Earth's solar system and accept status as a servant species. If we refuse, they will destroy all human colonies and Earth itself." The room went completely silent. Navigator Ryan Cooper was the first to speak. "That's impossible, sir. They can't be serious." "They are," Jake replied. The message came with proof. "They've already destroyed the mining station at Titan. 800 people, gone in seconds." Medical Officer Tony Martinez leaned forward. "What do they want us to do about it? We're just one ship." Jake touched the display again. A new image appeared showing the location of Nexus Prime, a massive space station in neutral territory. "We've been ordered to attend a negotiation meeting at Nexus Prime. The alien representatives want to discuss terms with a human delegate." Weapons Officer Amy Rodriguez laughed, but there was no humor in it. "A negotiation? With 12 alien fleets waiting for us? That's not a meeting, Captain. That's an execution." Jake nodded grimly. "I know. But Earth Command believes we need to try. Even if it's hopeless, we have to show the galaxy that humans don't just roll over and die." Communications Officer Steve Johnson pulled up tactical data on his tablet. "Sir, I've been monitoring alien communications. There are over 200 ships waiting at Nexus Prime. Zephyrians, hegemony forces, Krolix battle groups, and at least 6 other species." 200 ships, repeated Ryan. "Against our one." Lisa Blake spoke up from her position at the engineering station. "Captain, I've been studying their technology for months. Their ships are incredible. They have energy shields that can stop anything we throw at them. Their weapons can tear apart a planet. And some of their vessels can actually jump through space instantly." Jake walked to the large window that looked out into space. Stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were gathering to destroy everything humanity had built. "I won't lie to you," he said, turning back to face his crew. "This is probably a suicide mission. Earth Command knows it, and I know it. But someone has to go. Someone has to look these aliens in the eye and tell them that humanity isn't afraid." Chief Science Officer Danny Kim adjusted his glasses nervously. "Captain, what if we just refuse to go? We could head to the outer rim, hide in deep space. And let them think we're cowards?" Amy Rodriguez stood up, her fists clenched. "No way. I'd rather die fighting than spend the rest of my life running." Steve Johnson nodded in agreement. "The captain's right. If we don't show up, they'll use it as propaganda. They'll tell the whole galaxy that humans are weak and scared." Jake looked at each of his officers. These weren't soldiers who had volunteered for a glorious war. They were explorers, engineers, and scientists who had signed up to expand human knowledge and protect civilian ships. Now they were being asked to face the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. "I need to know right now," Jake said. "Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle to the nearest human colony. No shame in that. This isn't what you signed up for. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then Lisa Blake stood up. "I'm staying, Captain. This ship is my baby. I've spent 2 years making her perfect. If she's going down, I'm going down with her." One by one, every officer in the room stood up. Ryan Cooper straightened his shoulders. "Set course for Nexus Prime, sir." Tony Martinez gathered his medical supplies. "I'll prepare the medical bay for whatever's coming." Amy Rodriguez cracked her knuckles. "Let's go show these aliens what humans are made of." Jake felt a surge of pride watching his crew. They were scared, he could see it in their faces. But they weren't backing down. That was the thing about humans that other species never seemed to understand. When pushed into a corner, they didn't surrender. They fought. "All right then," Jake said. "Lisa, prepare the ship for maximum speed. Ryan, plot a course for Nexus Prime. Steve, send a message to Earth Command confirming we're en route. Amy, run full diagnostics on all weapons systems." As his crew dispersed to their stations, Jake stayed in the briefing room for a moment longer. He looked at the tactical display showing the impossible odds they faced. 200 alien ships with technology far beyond anything humanity possessed. But there was something the aliens didn't know. Something that Earth Command had only hinted at in their classified messages. The Defiance wasn't just any human ship. Over the past 6 months, she had been quietly upgraded with experimental technology. Technology that the aliens had never seen before. Jake smiled grimly as he headed back to the bridge. The aliens expected to find a weak, primitive human vessel manned by scared explorers. Instead, they were going to meet something they had never encountered before, humans who refused to give up, backed by ingenuity born from centuries of warfare and survival. The journey to Nexus Prime would take 18 hours. 18 hours to prepare for what might be humanity's last stand. As Jake settled into his captain's chair and watched the stars streak past, he felt ready for whatever was coming. The aliens wanted a demonstration of human weakness. Instead, they were about to learn why you should never underestimate a species that had clawed its way up from the bottom of the food chain. The UES Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, looking at the massive display screen that showed what waited for them ahead. Nexus Prime was a huge space station, bigger than any human city. It spun slowly in space, its metal surface covered with docking bays and communication arrays. But what made Jake's blood run cold were the ships surrounding it. Alien vessels filled the space around the station like a deadly cloud. Each ship was different, representing various species from across the galaxy. Some were sleek and silver, others were dark and angular. A few seemed to shimmer and bend light around them in ways that hurt to look at. "Sweet Mother of God," whispered Navigator Ryan Cooper. "There must be 300 ships out there." Communications Officer Steve Johnson looked up from his console, his face pale. "Captain, I'm reading energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Some of these ships are putting out more power than our entire solar system." Jake kept his expression calm, but inside his stomach was churning. The alien fleet was even larger than Earth Command had estimated. Each ship looked like it could destroy the Defiance without breaking a sweat. "Incoming transmission," Steve announced. "It's from the station." A holographic image appeared above Jake's command chair. The figure was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Its voice came through the translator as cold and mechanical. "Human vessel, you will dock at Bay 77 Alpha. You have exactly 10 minutes. Any delay will be considered an act of hostility." The transmission cut off before Jake could respond. "Friendly bunch," muttered Chief Engineer Lisa Blake from her station. Jake straightened his uniform jacket. "All right, people. Remember, we're here to represent humanity. Keep your heads high and don't let them see you sweat." The docking process was smooth, but Jake noticed how the alien station's tractor beam grabbed their ship with casual ease. The technology gap was obvious from the start. What took human ships careful maneuvering to accomplish, the aliens did without effort. Jake walked through the station's corridors with a small delegation, Diplomatic Officer Katie Warren, Science Officer Danny Kim, and 2 security guards. The hallways were enormous, built for species much larger than humans. The walls were made of some kind of flowing metal that seemed alive. They entered a vast conference chamber where representatives from 12 different alien species waited. The room was designed to intimidate, with a high ceiling that disappeared into darkness and seating arranged so the humans had to look up at everyone else. Admiral Crix of the Zephyrian Empire dominated the center of the room. He was 9 feet tall, covered in golden scales, with eyes like burning coals. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the chamber. "So, these are the humans." He looked down at Jake's delegation like they were insects. "Smaller than I expected." Chancellor Vex of the Hegemony was completely different but equally intimidating. She appeared to be made of living shadow, her form constantly shifting and changing. When she spoke, her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Their ship is quite primitive," she said. "Fusion engines, kinetic weapons, nuclear explosives. How charmingly ancient." The other alien representatives laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber like the growling of hungry predators. Jake stepped forward, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison, representing the United Earth government. We're here to discuss terms." Admiral Crix's laughter was like thunder. "Terms? You misunderstand your situation, little human. You are not here to negotiate. You are here to surrender." A holographic display activated in the center of the room, showing images of human colonies and Earth itself. Chancellor Vex gestured at the display with one shadowy appendage. "Your species has been evaluated," she said. "Your technology is laughably outdated. Your military consists of small ships with weapons that cannot penetrate even basic energy shields. Your planets are defended by orbital platforms that we could destroy with a single fighter craft." Danny Kim tried to speak up. "Our technology may seem primitive, but humans have always been adaptable. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars." The alien representatives erupted in laughter again. A massive creature that looked like a living asteroid spoke in a voice like grinding rock. "Adaptable? Child, we have weapons that manipulate gravity itself. We can create black holes, bend time, and travel instantly across the galaxy. What could your adaptability possibly accomplish against such power?" Katie Warren stepped forward, her diplomatic training taking over. "Surely there's room for peaceful coexistence. Humanity offers unique perspectives, creativity, and cultural diversity that could benefit the galaxy." Admiral Crix's scales began to glow brighter, a sign Jake recognized as anger or amusement. "Creativity?" Crix boomed. "We have species that think in 11 dimensions. Cultural diversity? The collective contains over 10,000 different civilizations. What could humans possibly offer that we don't already possess?" Chancellor Vex's form solidified slightly as she leaned forward. "Your species is useful for exactly one thing: manual labor. You breed quickly, require little maintenance, and can work in hazardous environments. You will mine asteroids, clean our ships, and serve our scientists." The chamber fell silent except for the humming of alien technology. Jake felt the weight of their stares, the casual contempt of beings who saw humans as nothing more than clever animals. "And if we refuse?" Jake asked quietly. The holographic display changed, showing a recording of Titan mining station. In the video, a single alien ship approached the human facility. A beam of pure energy lanced out, and the entire station simply ceased to exist. 800 people gone in an instant. "That took one ship 3 seconds, Admiral Crix said. "We have destroyed entire star systems in less time than it takes you to blink." Katie tried one more diplomatic approach. "There must be something humanity can offer in exchange for our freedom. Scientific knowledge, artistic expression, philosophical insights." The laughter was even louder this time. A crystalline being that sparkled like a rainbow spoke in chimes that the translator converted to words. "Your science is primitive. Your art is meaningless to species with senses you cannot imagine. Your philosophy is the thinking of children who have barely learned to use tools. Jake felt anger building in his chest, but he kept his voice level. You seem very confident in your superiority. Confident? Chancellor Vex's form rippled with what might have been amusement. Human, your entire species could not damage a single one of our scout ships. Your weapons are toys. Your ships are barely capable of interstellar flight. You are insects buzzing around giants. Admiral Crick stood to his full height, towering over the human delegation. You have witnessed our power. You have seen the futility of resistance. Return to your people with our terms, complete surrender within 24 hours, or we will demonstrate what happens to species that defy the Confederation. The meeting was clearly over. As Jake and his team were escorted back to their ship, they passed through corridors filled with alien beings who stared at them with curiosity, contempt, or simple indifference. Some pointed and whispered in languages the translators couldn't parse. Back aboard the Defiance, Jake's crew gathered in the briefing room. The mood was grim as Katie Warren delivered her report. They see us as nothing more than a pest to be exterminated, she said. Their technology is so advanced that they honestly believe we pose no threat whatsoever. Lisa Blake slammed her fist on the table. The arrogant bastards. They think we're primitive. We'll show them primitive. Jake looked around at his crew. He could see the humiliation in their faces, the anger at being dismissed so completely. But he could also see something else, determination. 24 hours, Jake said. That's what they gave us. In 24 hours, they expect a message of complete surrender from Earth. He stood up, his jaw set with grim resolve. Instead, they're going to get a message they'll never forget. Captain Jake Morrison sat alone in his quarters, staring at the quantum communicator on his desk. The device was smaller than a briefcase but contained technology that could send messages instantly across any distance. Right now, it was his only connection to Earth and the answers he desperately needed. He activated the secure channel and waited. The screen flickered to life, showing the familiar face of Admiral Susan Torres, head of Earth Defense Command. Behind her, Jake could see the busy command center on Luna Base. Jake, Admiral Torres said, her voice tight with stress. I saw your report on the meeting. It's as bad as we feared. It's worse, Jake replied. Admiral, they have over 300 ships out here. Their technology is so far beyond ours that they don't even consider us a threat. They're treating this whole thing like pest control. Admiral Torres nodded grimly. That's exactly what we hoped they would think. Jake leaned forward, confused. Ma'am? Jake, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. For the past 30 years, Earth has been preparing for this day. The screen split, and a new face appeared, Dr. Helen Chong, head of Earth's Advanced Research Division. Jake had heard of her but never met her. She was one of the most brilliant scientists in human space. Captain Morrison, Dr. Chong said, how much do you know about the Roswell incident? Jake blinked. The old UFO story from the 20th century? I thought that was debunked decades ago. It was real, Dr. Chong said simply. Not quite the way the conspiracy theorists imagined, but real. In 1947, an alien scout ship crashed in New Mexico. The crew didn't survive, but their technology did. Jake felt his worldview shifting. You're saying we've had alien technology for over 300 years? Not just one crash, Admiral Torres continued. Over the decades, we've recovered 17 different alien vessels. Ships from various species, including several from the races you just met. We've been studying their technology, learning their weaknesses, and preparing. Dr. Chong activated a holographic display. The aliens you encountered today think they know everything about human capabilities. They're basing their assessment on our public technology, fusion drives, kinetic weapons, nuclear warheads. What they don't know is that we've been building something else entirely. The hologram showed technical blueprints that made Jake's eyes widen. He recognized the basic outline of the Defiance, but the internal systems were completely different from what he thought he knew. Project Lazarus, Dr. Chong explained. Named after the biblical figure who rose from the dead. 6 months ago, while your ship was undergoing routine maintenance, we installed experimental systems throughout the Defiance. Jake stood up, his heart pounding. What kind of systems? The aliens have one crucial weakness, Dr. Chang said. They evolved on stable worlds with abundant energy sources. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly wasteful. They've never had to learn efficiency or resourcefulness. Admiral Torres leaned forward. Humans evolved differently, Jake. We came from a world where resources were scarce, where survival meant making every calorie count. We learned to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Those traits shaped not just our culture, but our approach to technology. The holographic display changed, showing comparative energy readings. Their shields, Dr. Chang explained, are designed to deflect energy-based attacks. They work by creating fields that absorb and redirect incoming power. But there's a limit to how much energy they can process at once. Jake was starting to understand. Overload them. Exactly. Their shields can handle sophisticated energy weapons because those weapons are designed to be efficient. But kinetic weapons moving at relativistic speeds carry crude, brute force energy that their systems can't process elegantly. The display showed another set of blueprints. We've equipped the Defiance with railguns that can accelerate projectiles to 30% of light speed. The aliens will see them coming and laugh at our primitive kinetic weapons. Right up until those weapons punch through their shields like they're tissue paper. Jake sat back down, his mind racing. What else? Their neural interface systems, Admiral Torres said. Most alien species connect directly to their technology through biological implants. It makes them incredibly efficient, but it also creates vulnerabilities. Dr. Chang nodded. We've developed electromagnetic pulse weapons specifically designed to disrupt neural interfaces. Not enough to cause permanent damage, but enough to sever the connection between alien crews and their ships. There's more, Admiral Torres continued. Their jump drives, their gravity weapons, their reality-bending technology, all of it depends on complex calculations and precise energy manipulation. But we've learned something about their computers. They're too smart for their own good, Dr. Chang said with a slight smile. Alien artificial intelligence is incredibly sophisticated, but it's also predictable. It follows logical patterns that can be anticipated and exploited. The holographic display showed lines of code that scrolled too fast for Jake to read. We've developed adaptive viruses that can learn alien computer systems in real time and turn them against each other. Their own technology will become their weakness. Jake looked at the blueprints again, seeing his ship in an entirely new light. How much of the Defiance's original systems are still intact? About 60%, Dr. Chang replied. We had to be subtle. If the aliens detected advanced technology aboard your ship, they would have destroyed you before you reached Nexus Prime. Admiral Torres's expression grew serious. Jake, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about saving humanity. This is about changing the balance of power in the galaxy. For too long, older species have treated younger ones as slaves or pets. It's time to show them that evolution doesn't stop. Your crew doesn't know about the modifications, Dr. Chang added. As far as they're concerned, they're flying into battle with conventional weapons. That's actually better, their genuine reactions will sell the deception. Jake thought about his crew, brave men and women who had volunteered for what they believed was a suicide mission. When do I tell them? You don't, Admiral Torres said firmly. Not until the shooting starts. The aliens will be monitoring all human communications. If they suspect we're not as helpless as we appear, they'll change their tactics. The quantum communicator crackled with static as the connection began to weaken. Jake, Admiral Torres said urgently, there's one more thing. The aliens gave you 24 hours to surrender. In 23 hours, every human colony is going to broadcast the same message: we do not surrender. We do not kneel. We are humanity. Dr. Chang leaned closer to the camera. You're not fighting this battle alone, Captain. When those aliens see what the Defiance can do, they're going to realize that they've underestimated the wrong species. The connection cut out, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He walked to the small window in his quarters and looked out at the massive alien fleet surrounding Nexus Prime. Hundreds of ships with technology that seemed like magic, crewed by beings who saw humans as nothing more than clever animals. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had judged humanity based on what they could see, not what they couldn't. They had assumed that because human technology looked primitive, humans themselves were primitive. Jake smiled grimly as he thought about the conversation he'd just had. The aliens wanted a demonstration of human surrender. Instead, they were about to get a lesson in why you should never assume that the underdog doesn't have teeth. He activated his ship's intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. In 22 hours, we're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity's children. Get some rest, check your equipment, and prepare for battle. Morrison out." As he settled into his bunk, Jake felt a calm certainty settling over him. Tomorrow, the aliens would discover that they had picked a fight with the wrong species. And they would learn that lesson in a way they would never, ever forget. The final hours before the deadline ticked away like a countdown to doomsday. Throughout the UES Defiance, Captain Jake Morrison's crew moved with quiet purpose, each person lost in their own thoughts about what was coming. In the weapons bay, Amy Rodriguez ran her hands along the hull of what looked like an ordinary kinetic torpedo. To anyone watching, she was simply performing routine maintenance on conventional weapons. But Jake had quietly briefed her on the true nature of their arsenal just 2 hours earlier. "These aren't just kinetic rounds," she whispered to herself, reading the technical specifications on her tablet. The projectiles contained dense cores of compressed matter that would accelerate to impossible speeds when fired from the modified railgun systems. Each one carried the kinetic energy of a small nuclear weapon, but without the radiation signature that alien sensors would detect. Her assistant, Bobby Chen, looked up from the loading mechanism. "Ma'am, something's different about these torpedoes. The mass readings are all wrong." Amy glanced around to make sure no one else was listening. "Bobby, what I'm about to tell you stays between us until the captain gives the word. These weapons aren't what they appear to be." She showed him the hidden technical readouts on her tablet. Bobby's eyes widened as he realized what they were really loading into the launch tubes. "Holy hell," he breathed. "These things will punch through anything." "That's the idea," Amy said grimly. "The aliens think we're bringing primitive weapons to a space battle. They're about to learn that sometimes primitive is exactly what you need." In the engineering section, Lisa Blake crawled through maintenance tunnels, making final adjustments to systems that hadn't existed a week ago. The ship's reactor had been completely rebuilt during what the crew thought was routine maintenance. Instead of the standard fusion core, the Defiance now ran on a hybrid system that could channel power in ways no alien engineer would expect. "Chief," called her assistant, Mark Williams, from the main console. "I'm getting weird readings from the reactor. It's like there's a whole secondary system I've never seen before." Lisa emerged from the tunnel, her coveralls stained with coolant fluid. "That's because there is. Mark, we're about to go into battle against technology that's thousands of years more advanced than anything humans have ever built. Our only chance is to hit them with something they've never seen before." She activated a hidden panel on the engineering console, revealing controls for systems that made Mark's jaw drop. "What is all this?" he asked. "Adaptive shielding, energy redirection matrices, and power systems that can overload in controlled ways to create feedback loops in alien weapons," Lisa explained. "The Defiance isn't just a warship anymore. She's a technological surprise package." In the medical bay, Tony Martinez prepared for casualties with grim efficiency. He had seen the alien fleet through the observation windows, and he knew that the odds of anyone surviving the coming battle were slim. But orders were orders, and sailors were counting on him. His nurse, Karen Foster, was organizing medical supplies when she noticed something odd. "Doc, what are these?" She held up several devices that looked like advanced neural monitors. Tony had been briefed on the alien neural interface systems that connected crews directly to their ships. "Those are designed to detect and counteract alien neural weapon effects," he explained. "If the aliens try to attack our minds directly, those devices will protect us." "Neural weapons?" Karen's face went pale. "They can attack our brains?" "They can try," Tony said grimly. But we have a few surprises of our own. On the bridge, Communications Officer Steve Johnson sat at his console, preparing to broadcast humanity's response to the alien ultimatum. The message had been sent from Earth Command, and it was simple, direct, and defiant. Navigator Ryan Cooper looked over at the tactical display showing the positions of the alien fleet. "Steve, we're going to broadcast that message right into the middle of 300 hostile ships. They're going to be pretty angry." Steve grinned. "Good. Angry enemies make mistakes." Jake Morrison walked through his ship, checking on each section. He could feel the tension in the air, but also something else, determination. His crew might not know the full extent of their ship's capabilities, but they knew they were fighting for something important. In the mess hall, he found a group of junior officers eating what might be their last meal. They looked up as he approached, and one of them, Ensign Tommy Lee, spoke up. "Captain, what are our real chances?" Jake sat down at their table. "Honestly, the aliens think our chances are zero. They believe we're so outmatched that this battle will last about 30 seconds. The young officers looked grim until Jake smiled. "But the aliens don't know everything. They think they understand human technology, human tactics, and human limitations. They're wrong on all three counts." Ensign Maria Santos leaned forward. "What do you mean, sir?" "I mean that humanity has been preparing for this fight a lot longer than they realize. And when the shooting starts, we're going to show them what happens when you underestimate a species that refuses to stay down." As the final hour approached, Jake returned to his quarters for one last conversation with Earth Command. Admiral Torres appeared on the quantum communicator, along with Dr. Chong and several other officials Jake didn't recognize. "Jake," Admiral Torres said, "in 45 minutes, every human colony will broadcast our response. Are you ready?" "As ready as we can be," Jake replied. The crew knows something is different about the ship, but they don't know exactly what. When the fighting starts, it's going to be a shock for everyone. Dr. Chong nodded approvingly. "That's perfect. The aliens will be monitoring human biosigns and stress levels. If your crew genuinely believes they're outmatched, the aliens will assume their sensors are correct." "There's one more thing," Admiral Torres added. "We've been monitoring alien communications. They're not just planning to destroy your ship. They want to make an example of humanity. They're going to broadcast the battle across the galaxy as proof of their superiority." Jake felt a cold smile cross his face. "Let them. The galaxy deserves to see what really happens." The final minutes ticked away. Jake returned to the bridge, where his senior staff waited at their stations. Each of them looked nervous but determined. "Incoming transmission from the alien fleet," Steve Johnson announced. "It's Admiral Crix." The holographic image of the massive Zephyrian leader appeared above the bridge. His golden scales gleamed, and his burning eyes looked down at the human crew with obvious contempt. "Human vessel," Crix boomed, "your time has expired. Have you come to surrender?" Jake stood up from his captain's chair. "Admiral Crix, I have a message for you and your fleet." "Speak quickly, primitive. My patience grows thin." Jake looked directly into the alien's burning eyes. "The message is simple: we do not surrender. We do not kneel. We are humanity, and we reject your ultimatum." For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then Crix began to laugh, a sound like rolling thunder. "Foolish little creatures. You will serve as an example to any other species that dares to defy the Confederation. Prepare to die." The transmission cut off. Immediately, the ship's sensors detected energy spikes from the alien fleet as weapons systems came online. Jake activated the ship's internal communications. "All hands, this is the captain. In 60 seconds, we're going to be in the fight of our lives. Remember who you are, remember what you're fighting for, and remember that the galaxy is watching. Let's show them what humanity is made of." He settled into his command chair and looked at his crew. Amy Rodriguez was ready at the weapons console, her hands hovering over controls for weapons the aliens couldn't imagine. Lisa Blake monitored engineering systems that shouldn't exist. Ryan Cooper calculated vectors for maneuvers that would seem impossible. Steve Johnson prepared to broadcast signals that would turn alien technology against itself. All stations report ready, Jake announced. Amy, prepare to fire on my command. Outside the ship, the alien fleet began to move. 300 vessels representing the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, all focused on destroying one small human ship. But as the first alien dreadnought moved into attack position, none of them suspected that they were about to face something far more dangerous than primitive human technology. They were about to face human ingenuity backed by desperation, and that was a combination that had never lost a fight. The alien fleet spread out around the UES Defiance like predators circling wounded prey. Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as hundreds of ships took positions, their weapons powered and ready. The aliens were making a show of it, wanting to demonstrate their overwhelming superiority to the galaxy that was watching. Admiral Crix's flagship, a massive Zephyrian dreadnought called the Golden Spear, moved forward from the fleet. The ship was 2 kilometers long, covered in golden armor that seemed to glow with its own light. Energy discharges crackled along its hull as weapons systems charged to full power. Captain, Communications Officer Steve Johnson reported, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. Every species in the galaxy is watching this. Jake nodded grimly. Good. Let them watch. The Golden Spear came to a stop just 1,000 kilometers away from the Defiance. At that range, it was close enough that Jake could see details on its hull through the main viewer. Gun ports opened along its sides, revealing weapons that pulsed with contained energy. A transmission came through from Admiral Crix. The alien commander appeared relaxed, almost bored, as he looked down at the human crew. This is your final chance, humans. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Jake stood up from his command chair. Admiral, I told you already. Humanity doesn't surrender. Crix's scales brightened with what Jake now recognized as alien amusement. So be it. Consider this a lesson for the galaxy about the price of defiance. The transmission ended. Immediately, the Golden Spear opened fire. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the alien dreadnought, weapons that could vaporize mountains. The crew of the Defiance braced for impact, waiting for their ship to be torn apart. Instead, something unexpected happened. The energy beams struck the Defiance's hull and simply stopped. The ship's armor absorbed the incredible energy and began to glow with a dull red heat. But the Defiance held together. What the hell? Amy Rodriguez gasped from her weapons station. Ablative armor, Chief Engineer Lisa Blake explained quickly, her hands flying over her controls. It's designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks. The more they shoot at us, the stronger our defenses become. On the Golden Spear, Jake could imagine Admiral Crix staring in confusion at his sensors. The alien commander had just fired enough energy to destroy a small moon, and the primitive human ship was still intact. The Zephyrian dreadnought fired again, this time with multiple weapon systems. Energy beams, plasma cannons, and exotic particle weapons all struck the Defiance simultaneously. The human ship shuddered under the impact, but something amazing was happening. The ablative armor was not just absorbing the energy, it was storing it. The Defiance's hull began to glow brighter, and the ship's power reading spiked to levels that should have been impossible. Lisa, Jake called out, how are we holding up? Better than holding up, Captain, Lisa replied with growing excitement. The energy absorption system is working perfectly. We're actually gaining power from their attacks. Through the view screen, Jake could see alien ships beginning to move closer. Admiral Crix's easy confidence was gone, replaced by confusion and growing alarm. The primitive human vessel should have been space dust by now. Amy, Jake said quietly, prepare to return fire. At her weapons console, Amy Rodriguez felt her heart pounding as she activated systems she had only learned about hours earlier. The modified railgun system came online, drawing power from the energy that the alien attacks had pumped into their ship. Target the Golden Spear, Jake ordered. Let's show them what human ingenuity looks like. The Defiance's main gun fired. What emerged from the weapon wasn't the primitive kinetic round that the aliens expected. It was a projectile accelerated to 30% of light speed, carrying kinetic energy equivalent to a small star exploding. The round struck the golden spear's energy shields in a flash of light that lit up the entire star system. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The alien dreadnought's shields held, deflecting the attack just as they were designed to do. Admiral Crix's crew probably felt a moment of relief. Then the secondary effect kicked in. The kinetic round had carried so much raw, unrefined energy that the Zephyrian shields couldn't process it efficiently. The deflection systems, designed to handle sophisticated energy weapons, simply overloaded when faced with such crude, brute force. The Golden Spear's shields failed in a cascade of sparks and electrical discharges. The ship's hull, suddenly exposed, buckled under feedback from its own defense systems. A second kinetic round from the Defiance punched through the unprotected armor like it was paper. The massive alien dreadnought split in half, its fusion cores detonating in a series of explosions that could be seen from orbit around Nexus Prime. The silence that followed was deafening. Admiral Crix, the pride of the Zephyrian Empire, the commander who had conquered 17 star systems, was dead. His flagship, a technological marvel that had taken 50 years to build, was nothing but expanding debris. On the bridge of the Defiance, the human crew stared at their tactical display in shock. They had just destroyed the most powerful warship in the Zephyrian fleet with what they thought were primitive weapons. "Holy Mother of God," whispered Navigator Ryan Cooper. "We actually killed it." The alien fleet, which had been moving in for an easy slaughter, suddenly stopped. Jake could imagine the panic spreading through their ranks as commanders tried to understand what had just happened. Communications Officer Steve Johnson looked up from his console, his face pale with excitement. "Captain, I'm detecting massive communication spikes from the alien fleet. Their chatter is off the charts." Jake smiled grimly. "Translate what you can." Fragments of alien communications began coming through the ship's systems. The computer translated the words, but the terror in the alien voices needed no translation. "How is this possible? Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our shields. The humans destroyed the Golden Spear. This isn't possible." Jake activated the ship's external communications, broadcasting on all frequencies so that every alien ship could hear him. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the UES Defiance. You came here expecting to find frightened animals. Instead, you found humanity. Admiral Crix learned the price of underestimating my species. Anyone else want a lesson?" The response was immediate and panicked. Energy weapons from dozens of alien ships opened fire on the Defiance, but now the human crew was ready for them. "All power to ablative systems," Lisa Blake called out. "Let them charge our batteries." The Defiance's hull began to glow like a miniature star as it absorbed the incoming energy. The ship's power levels rose to incredible heights, feeding the experimental systems that the aliens couldn't detect or understand. "Amy," Jake ordered, "pick your targets. Let's give them something to really worry about." The human ship began to move, not with the lumbering motions of a vessel designed for exploration, but with the deadly grace of a predator that had been hiding its true nature. The aliens had expected to face primitive human technology. Instead, they were facing something far more dangerous, human creativity backed by desperation and armed with weapons they couldn't comprehend. As the Defiance lined up its next shot, Jake thought about the message that Earth Command had wanted him to send. The galaxy was watching, and they were about to learn that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. The age of alien dominance was about to end, and it was ending at the hands of creatures they had dismissed as primitive animals. The real battle was just beginning. The destruction of Admiral Crix's flagship sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. What had started as a simple demonstration of power had become something none of them had prepared for, a real fight. Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as alien ships scattered in confusion. For centuries, these species had dominated the galaxy through overwhelming technological superiority. None of them had ever faced an enemy that could actually hurt them. "Captain," Communications Officer Steve Johnson reported, "I'm picking up frantic communications between the alien commanders. They're trying to reorganize their formation." "Don't let them," Jake ordered. "Amy, target the Hegemony Command ship. Before they can coordinate a proper response." At her weapons console, Amy Rodriguez locked onto a massive dark vessel that seemed to absorb light around it. The Hegemony command ship was trying to retreat to a safer distance, but the Defiance was faster than they expected. The human ship's railgun fired again, sending a kinetic projectile screaming through space at a significant fraction of light speed. The Hegemony vessel's shields flared as they tried to deflect the incoming round. For a moment, it looked like their defenses would hold. Then the same cascade failure that had destroyed the Golden Spear began to ripple through their shield matrix. The kinetic energy was too crude, too overwhelming for their sophisticated systems to handle efficiently. The Hegemony command ship's shields collapsed, and the kinetic round punched through their hull like it was made of tissue paper. The ship didn't explode dramatically like the Zephyrian dreadnought. Instead, it simply broke apart, its sections drifting away into space as life support systems failed. 2 down, Amy reported grimly. But the aliens were learning fast. Instead of staying grouped together where the Defiance could pick them off, they began to spread out and attack from multiple directions simultaneously. "Incoming fire from all vectors," warned Navigator Ryan Cooper. "They're trying to overwhelm our defenses." Energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic weapons converged on the human ship from every direction. The Defiance's ablative armor began to glow white-hot as it absorbed the incredible energy. Hull temperature rising rapidly, Chief Engineer Lisa Blake reported. "The armor can absorb their energy, but we have limits." Jake made a decision that would have seemed insane to any conventional military commander. "Ryan, take us directly into their formation. Use the debris field from the destroyed ships as cover." "Sir?" Ryan looked uncertain. "That's going to put us in the middle of their fleet." "Exactly where they won't expect us to be," Jake replied. "Amy, prepare torpedo spreads. Let's give them a close-up demonstration of human weapons." The Defiance accelerated toward the alien fleet, using the wreckage of the Golden Spear as a shield. The human ship was smaller and more maneuverable than the massive alien vessels, able to dart between debris that would pose a collision hazard to larger ships. "Now!" Jake shouted. Amy triggered a full torpedo spread. Dozens of modified kinetic rounds launched from the Defiance's tubes, each one accelerated to incredible speeds by the ship's experimental railgun systems. The aliens had expected the human ship to maintain distance and engage in a conventional space battle. Instead, the Defiance was fighting like a pack hunter, using speed and surprise to strike at vulnerable targets. 3 alien cruisers took direct hits simultaneously. Their shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, simply couldn't cope with the brute force kinetic energy. All 3 ships suffered catastrophic hull breaches and began venting atmosphere. "My God," whispered Medical Officer Tony Martinez from his station. "We're actually winning." But the aliens weren't helpless. A massive Krolix battleship, built like a living asteroid, managed to get a target lock on the Defiance. Its gravity cannon fired, creating a localized distortion in spacetime that should have crushed the human ship instantly. Instead, something unexpected happened. The Defiance's experimental systems detected the gravity distortion and responded with countermeasures that the aliens had never seen before. "Lisa," Jake called out, "what just happened?" "The ship's adaptive shielding system just learned how to deflect gravity weapons," Lisa reported in amazement. "It's using feedback loops to create opposing gravitational fields." The gravity cannon's effects were neutralized, leaving the Krolix battleship vulnerable. Amy didn't waste the opportunity, sending 3 kinetic rounds into the alien vessel's unprotected hull. The massive ship cracked like an egg, its organic components spilling into space. Throughout the alien fleet, panic was spreading. Species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia were being systematically destroyed by what they had dismissed as primitive animals. Communications Officer Steve Johnson looked up from his console with a grin. "Captain, I'm detecting something interesting. The aliens are using neural interface systems to control their ships." Jake's eyes narrowed. This was another piece of the puzzle that Dr. Chong had prepared them for. "Can you disrupt those interfaces?" "Already working on it," Steve replied. "Launching electromagnetic pulse torpedoes now." The EMP weapons weren't designed to destroy alien ships directly. Instead, they targeted the neural connections that linked alien crews to their vessels. The pulses swept through the fleet, severing the biological links that allowed aliens to control their technology. Suddenly, dozens of alien ships found themselves drifting helplessly as their crews lost the ability to interface with their own systems. It was like cutting the strings of puppets. Now they're fighting with manual controls, Steve reported. Their reaction times just got a lot slower. Jake seized the advantage. Amy, target the disabled ships. Don't let them re-establish their neural links. The Defiance moved through the alien formation like a shark among wounded fish. One by one, alien vessels that had seemed invincible just minutes earlier fell to human weapons that worked on principles their sophisticated technology couldn't counter. But the battle was far from over. The remaining alien commanders were beginning to adapt, switching to manual control systems and changing their tactics. A group of Zephyrian destroyers managed to surround the Defiance, firing coordinated volleys that strained even the human ship's advanced defenses. Hull integrity dropping to 60%, Lisa warned. We can't take much more of this. Jake looked at the tactical display. They had destroyed nearly 50 alien ships, but over 200 remained. The odds were still overwhelming. Ryan, he ordered, plot a course through the Nexus Prime asteroid field. Let's see how well their big ships handle close-quarters maneuvering. The Defiance broke away from the main battle, racing toward the nearby asteroid field that surrounded the space station. The smaller human ship could navigate the rocky maze, but the massive alien dreadnoughts would have trouble following. Several alien ships tried to pursue, but the asteroids forced them to reduce speed and spread out. This gave the Defiance the opportunity to pick them off one by one, using the asteroids as cover and the aliens' own size against them. Sir, Amy reported, I'm detecting energy spikes from the remaining alien fleet. They're charging some kind of superweapon. Jake looked back at the main alien formation. A massive collective ship, built like a geometric crystal, was beginning to glow with contained energy. Whatever they were preparing, it would be powerful enough to vaporize everything within 1,000 kilometers. They're going to try to take us out with one massive shot, Jake realized. Even if it destroys half their own fleet in the process. The aliens had finally decided that the human ship was too dangerous to allow to survive. They were willing to sacrifice their own vessels to ensure that the Defiance was destroyed. Jake smiled grimly. The aliens thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to discover that they had barely scratched the surface. The massive collective ship continued to charge its superweapon, energy building to levels that made the surrounding space shimmer with distortion. Captain Jake Morrison knew they had minutes, maybe less, before the aliens unleashed enough power to turn the entire asteroid field into vapor. Lisa, he called to his chief engineer, how much power do we have stored from their previous attacks? Lisa Blake checked her readings, her eyes widening at the numbers. More than I've ever seen, Captain. The ablative armor has been absorbing energy all battle. We're practically bursting with power. Jake made a decision that would either save his ship or destroy it. Reroute all stored energy to our weapons systems. Amy, I want maximum power to the railguns. Sir, Amy Rodriguez warned, that much power could overload our entire weapons grid. Then we better make the shot count, Jake replied grimly. While the Defiance prepared its desperate gambit, Communications Officer Steve Johnson was working on his own surprise for the alien fleet. His fingers flew over his console as he accessed systems that had been hidden in the ship's computer core. Captain, Steve announced, I'm ready to deploy our computer virus. But I need to get close to their communication network. Jake looked at the tactical display. The aliens were maintaining tight formation to protect their superweapon ship. Getting close enough to hack their network would mean flying directly into the heart of their fleet. Do it, Jake ordered. Ryan, plot a course straight at the collective ship. Full speed. Navigator Ryan Cooper's hands trembled slightly as he input the coordinates. Sir, that course will take us through the middle of their entire fleet. Good. They won't expect us to charge directly at them. The Defiance burst out of the asteroid field like a bullet, accelerating toward the alien formation at maximum speed. Energy weapons from dozens of ships opened fire, but the human vessel's ablative armor absorbed the incoming energy and converted it into even more power for their weapons. Virus uploading now, Steve reported as they closed the distance to the alien fleet. I'm accessing their communication network, got it. The virus is spreading through their systems. Across the alien fleet, something unprecedented began to happen. Ships that had worked in perfect coordination for centuries suddenly found their computer systems turning against them. Navigation computers began plotting random courses. Weapons systems targeted friendly vessels. Communication arrays broadcast contradictory orders. It's working! Steve shouted over the noise of battle. Their own technology is fighting itself. Two Zephyrian cruisers opened fire on each other as their targeting systems became confused. A hegemony destroyer's navigation system sent it on a collision course with its own flagship. Throughout the alien formation, chaos spread like wildfire. But the collective superweapon ship was still charging its devastating weapon. Its crystalline structure glowed brighter as energy levels approached critical mass. 20 seconds to firing, Amy warned. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now. Jake watched as the alien superweapon reached critical charge. The space around the collective ship began to warp and twist as reality itself bent under the strain of contained energy. Fire everything, Jake ordered. The Defiance unleashed every weapon it had simultaneously. Kinetic rounds accelerated to incredible speeds, EMP torpedoes designed to disrupt alien systems, and experimental energy weapons that drew their power from the ship's overcharged armor. But the collective ship's shields held. The superweapon continued its firing sequence. Then Steve Johnson's virus reached the collective ship's systems. The alien vessel's computer network, infected by adaptive human code, began to interpret its own superweapon as a threat. Safety protocols that had been built into the ship's systems to prevent accidents suddenly activated. The superweapon's firing sequence was aborted just as it reached critical energy levels. But the weapon had been charged far beyond safe parameters. With nowhere for the energy to go, it began to feed back into the ship's own systems. The collective vessel started to come apart from the inside. Its crystalline structure cracked as uncontrolled energy tore through its hull. Other alien ships tried to retreat, but the virus had infected their navigation systems. The collective ship exploded in a burst of light that lit up half the star system. The blast wave spread outward, catching dozens of alien vessels that couldn't escape because their own computers were working against them. When the light faded, nearly half the alien fleet was gone. The remaining alien ships found themselves scattered and confused, their communication networks compromised and their coordination destroyed. What had been a unified force was now a collection of individual vessels fighting against their own technology. Steve, Jake called out, can you broadcast a message to the surviving alien ships? Already on it, Captain, Steve replied with a grin. Jake's voice echoed across every communication channel in the system, reaching every surviving alien vessel and broadcasting to the galaxy beyond. This is Captain Morrison of the UES Defiance. Your fleets came here to demonstrate the price of defying the Galactic Confederation. Instead, you've learned the price of underestimating humanity. Throughout the scattered alien formation, ships struggled to regain control of their systems. Some vessels tried to retreat, only to find their navigation computers sending them in circles. Others attempted to regroup, but their communication systems were broadcasting human military songs instead of tactical orders. Medical Officer Tony Martinez looked up from his station where he had been monitoring alien biosigns throughout the battle. Captain, I'm detecting massive panic responses from the alien crews. Their stress levels are off the charts. For species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia, the experience of being outfought by creatures they considered primitive was shattering. Fear was an emotion that most of these aliens hadn't felt in centuries. Amy, Jake ordered, target any ship that's still trying to fight. But give them a chance to surrender first. The Defiance moved through the shattered alien formation like a predator among prey. Most of the surviving ships were too busy fighting their own compromised systems to offer resistance. One Zephyrian destroyer managed to get its weapons online and fired at the human ship. The Defiance's response was swift and decisive. A single kinetic round punched through the alien vessel's hull, leaving it drifting and powerless. This is the Zephyrian destroyer Bright Talon, came a transmission filled with static. We surrender. Please, we surrender. It was the first time in recorded galactic history that a Zephyrian military vessel had surrendered to another species. More surrender transmissions followed. Hegemony ships, Krolix vessels, and representatives from species that Jake had never heard of all began broadcasting their capitulation. Chief Engineer Lisa Blake looked up from her damage control reports. "Captain, our hull integrity is down to 40%, and we've exhausted most of our stored energy. But we're still flying." Jake nodded, feeling exhaustion beginning to set in. The battle had lasted less than 2 hours, but it felt like a lifetime. Around them, the debris of alien ships drifted in space, vessels that had seemed invincible just hours earlier. "Steve," Jake said, "open a channel to Earth Command. Let them know the galaxy just got a new perspective on humanity." As the communications system connected to Earth, Jake looked out at the surviving alien ships. They had come to Nexus Prime expecting to witness the destruction of a primitive human vessel. Instead, they had witnessed the birth of a new power in the galaxy. The age of unchallenged alien dominance was over. And it had ended at the hands of a species they had dismissed as clever animals. 3 hours after the battle began, space around Nexus Prime looked like a graveyard. Debris from over 100 alien ships drifted in the void, testament to the price of underestimating humanity. The UES Defiance hung motionless among the wreckage, her hull scarred and blackened but unbroken. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, looking at the tactical display that showed the 37 alien ships still capable of movement. Most were badly damaged, their crews struggling with compromised systems and shattered confidence. Communications Officer Steve Johnson looked up from his console. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the surviving Zephyrian fleet commander." The holographic display activated, showing a figure that was clearly not Admiral Crix. This Zephyrian was smaller, with duller scales, and his burning eyes held something Jake had never seen in an alien before: fear. "I am Sub-Admiral Vex," the alien said, his voice lacking the arrogant boom that had characterized Crix's communications. "I speak for the surviving Zephyrian vessels. We request terms for ceasefire." Jake couldn't help but smile. Hours earlier, these same aliens had been demanding humanity's complete surrender. Now they were asking for mercy. "Sub-Admiral," Jake replied, "I'm willing to discuss terms. But first, I want a message sent to every species in the Galactic Confederation." What message?" Vex asked nervously. "That humanity is no longer available for conquest. Our worlds, our people, and our ships are off-limits. Any species that threatens human territory will face the consequences." The alien commander's scales dimmed with what Jake now recognized as submission. "I will send that message immediately." More transmissions began coming in from other surviving ships. The hegemony remnants, led by a shadowy figure calling himself Sub-Chancellor Dren, offered similar terms. The Krolix survivors, their living ships visibly wounded, transmitted biochemical signals that Steve's computer translated as complete submission. Medical Officer Tony Martinez approached Jake's command chair. "Captain, I've been monitoring alien biosigns throughout the fleet. What I'm seeing is unprecedented." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "These species have been dominant for so long that most of them have never experienced defeat. The psychological impact of losing to humans, to a species they considered primitive, is devastating. Some of their crews are going into shock." Jake nodded grimly. He felt no satisfaction in the alien's psychological trauma, but he understood its importance. The galaxy needed to know that the old order had changed. Chief Engineer Lisa Blake finished her damage assessment and approached the command area. "Captain, we took a beating, but the ship is intact. The experimental systems performed beyond all expectations. The ablative armor absorbed enough energy to power a small city." "What about our weapons?" Jake asked. "The railgun systems are still operational, but we've used up most of our kinetic ammunition. The EMP torpedoes are exhausted, and the computer virus has spread so far through alien networks that we might have trouble controlling it." Navigator Ryan Cooper looked up from his station. "Sir, I'm plotting courses for the surviving alien ships. Most of them are heading directly back to their home territories. They're not stopping at colonies or outposts, they're running straight home. Jake wasn't surprised. The aliens had come to Nexus Prime expecting to demonstrate their power to the galaxy. Instead, they had become the demonstration of human capability. A new transmission came in, this one from Nexus Prime Station itself. The image showed the same four-armed alien who had given them docking instructions days earlier, but his demeanor was completely different. Captain Morrison, the station commander said, his voice respectful rather than dismissive, "I am Station Administrator Call. I wish to formally apologize for the Confederation's actions and request permission to open diplomatic discussions with your government." "I'll pass your request to Earth Command," Jake replied. "But Administrator, I want to make something clear. Any future diplomatic meetings will be conducted as negotiations between equals, not as surrender ceremonies." "Of course, Captain. The Confederation understands that now." As the immediate crisis passed, Jake finally had time to contact Earth Command. Admiral Torres appeared on the quantum communicator, along with Dr. Chang and several other officials. Behind them, Jake could see celebration in the Luna Base Command Center. "Jake," Admiral Torres said, her voice filled with pride, "the entire galaxy watched that battle. Every species with communication technology saw a lone human ship defeat the combined fleets of the Confederation." Dr. Chang leaned forward excitedly. "The technological implications are staggering. Our adaptive systems not only worked, they exceeded all projections. The aliens' own arrogance became their greatest weakness." "What's the situation on Earth?" Jake asked. "Celebrations in every major city," Admiral Torres replied. "But more importantly, we're receiving diplomatic overtures from dozens of species that were previously allied with the Confederation. The balance of power in the galaxy has shifted overnight." Jake looked around at his crew. These men and women had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, but they had also borne witness to something larger than a single battle. "Admiral," Jake said, "we need to be careful how we use this victory. The aliens came here because they saw humanity as a threat to their dominance. We've proven them right, but that makes us a target for every species that wants to maintain the old order." "We're already working on that," Admiral Torres replied. "We're reaching out to younger species, offering defensive alliances and technology sharing agreements. Humanity won't be fighting alone anymore." As the communication ended, Jake found himself alone on the bridge for a moment. Through the main viewer, he could see alien ships limping away from Nexus Prime, their crews carrying word of humanity's capabilities to every corner of the galaxy. Weapons Officer Amy Rodriguez joined him at the viewer. "Think they'll be back, Captain?" "Some of them, eventually," Jake replied. "But not like this. Not expecting an easy victory over primitive humans." Chief Science Officer Danny Kim approached with a tablet full of data. "Captain, I've been analyzing the battle recordings. The aliens made a fundamental error in their assessment of human technology." "What kind of error?" Jake asked. "They assumed that because our technology looked primitive, it was primitive. They never considered that we might have deliberately designed our systems to appear less advanced than they actually were." Jake nodded. It was a classic human trait, the ability to adapt, to learn from enemies, and to turn apparent weaknesses into hidden strengths. Communications Officer Steve Johnson looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's going out on all human frequencies." The message appeared on the main screen, and Jake read it aloud for his crew. "To all human colonies and vessels, the threat from the Galactic Confederation has been neutralized. The UES Defiance has successfully defended human territory and secured our species' independence. Humanity stands equal among the stars." Cheers erupted from the bridge crew, the first real celebration since the battle began. Jake allowed himself a moment to feel pride in what they had accomplished. But as he looked at the debris field surrounding them, he also felt the weight of responsibility. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. They had proven that they were not victims, not servants, and definitely not primitives. The question now was what they would do with the respect they had earned. "Set course for Earth," Jake ordered. "It's time to go home." As the Defiance limped away from Nexus Prime, leaving behind the wreckage of alien arrogance, Jake Morrison reflected on the lesson his species had taught the galaxy. Never underestimate the ingenuity of creatures who refuse to accept defeat. Never assume that technological superiority guarantees victory. And never, ever pick a fight with humans unless you're prepared for them to fight back. The galaxy had learned these lessons the hard way. And they would never forget them.